let's dive into this game. Let's welcome in our GMs, Spielman and Scott Pioli here. Chargers at Chiefs on Thursday night. Fourth time we've seen Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes face off, thanks to Chris Hassel over here. I do know now each time before there was a game-winning score in the final minute or overtime. So, guys, before we jump into the game, Scott, I'll start with you here. How fun is it to watch these two guys go head-to-head?
It's great to watch these two quarterbacks go head-to-head, but it's great to watch these coaches go head-to-head. We know Andy Reid is a Hall of Fame caliber coach. He should be there. And Brandon Staley's doing a great job, a young defensive mind. These games are always exciting because they've not only got players, but they've got coaching staffs. They've got organizations. They've both got general managers and leadership that are terrific. So I absolutely love this. This is old school AFL, you know, Rick?
Yeah, no, I don't know if it's old school AFL because I think there's going to be a lot of points thrown up on the board tonight or tomorrow night. But both of these quarterbacks were the two hottest quarterbacks coming out of week one. And Justin Herbert, he's 2-0 right now going to Arrowhead Stadium. So it'll be interesting to see the adjustments. Both teams, I thought both general managers did a phenomenal job adding players and trying to address their needs this offseason. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they get together. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. The one thing that I would watch in this game, if it comes down to the kickers, and last week you saw a lot of games on kickers missing, but if Harrison Buckner can't go, who got hurt last week with an ankle injury against the Arizona Cardinals, they signed Matt Amendola to the practice squad. So tomorrow we'll see if he kicks or if Amendola ends up kicking and being activated from the practice squad. But that could be a difference in the game.
I think Pete Prisco is still just marching around the building somewhere saying, kickers, make your damn kicks. Since you're both front office guys, I want to ask you about this. It's been 2 years since Patrick Mahomes signed his record-breaking deal. Since then, we have seen some absolutely wild contracts when it comes to quarterbacks. Rick, I'll start with you. When it comes to negotiations between Justin Herbert and the Chargers, what we could potentially see, what do you think?
Oh, I think, once you see these guys finish the year out and you got Joe Burrow behind them, and then, next year, since Lamar Jackson didn't get his deal done, you got three premier young quarterbacks that are top of their game and maybe the best in the league right now and will be the best in the league for the future. That I think when you get to those contract negotiations, I don't know if they'll go to the fully guaranteed side, but they could be the top of the market by it's all said and done.
I agree with you, Rick. And you know what? This is just the cost of doing business in the NFL right now. And you know what? This is actually a really good problem to have. As a general manager, people think, oh my gosh, they hate spending that money. Yeah, we're not crazy about spending money, but when you've got one that you can spend money on and you know is going to be good, it's not a big problem, or you're not that upset about it, because the other option is that you don't have a quarterback. So to me, I could see these contracts, or not only with Herbert, but with others, the starting point is going to be $45 million a year, and it's going to be more than $150 million guaranteed. The contract that was done in Cleveland this year is truly where the fly in the ointment is. We saw that the Lamar Jackson deal didn't get done, and a lot has to do with the fact that the Cleveland Browns got their quarterback done with an enormous guarantee. So to me, that's where this is going to be. But at the end of the day, the quarterback's going to get paid, and the team's going to be happy to pay it.
Scott, looking at go ahead, Rick.
Quick, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets closer to $50 million next year by the time this is all said and done.
Well,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. North of 45, exactly right.
I would like you each to work with me on my contract. Thank you. Patrick Mahomes, let's talk about him going into this game. We were all waiting to see what would happen without Tyreek Hill. And Scott, I think maybe in that first game we realized, hey, this is Patrick Mahomes. Why were we worried?
Yeah, I got to go back to what I was saying in this offseason. There was all this noise and all this hullabaloo about the Chiefs are going backwards. I didn't think the Chiefs were going to be backwards. And again, I'm not saying this disrespectfully to Tyreek Hill at all. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. I wasn't surprised to see what we saw. He completed 30 passes last week to 9 different receivers. Great quarterbacks know how to distribute the ball. When you've got someone as wonderful as Tyreek Hill, heck yeah, you're going to go to him. But he's also got Travis Kelce. He knows how to distribute the ball. You go back to Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. They know how to distribute the ball and how to get the ball to different players. And again, they had 11 players with 1 or more touch last week. They had 6 receivers that had 3 or more receptions. And last year, let's go back to last year, and this is not a shot at Tyreek Hill at all, but let's understand this. Last year was the first season when he had Tyreek Hill that he had a passer rating that was under 100. They traded Tyreek Hill in March, but also go back to this stat and fact about Patrick Mahomes. Last year he had 12 interceptions targeting Hill from 2018 to 2021, which is the fourth most by any quarterback wide receiver duo. So people were on to Tyreek Hill to a degree. Does it hurt not having him? Yes, but not that much, because he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League, and they're a terrific team.
And you got to add in the Andy Reid factor, because he may be one of the best play callers, one of the best offensive minds, and probably a future Hall of Fame coach that will end up in Canton someday. So you put that factor along with Mahomes, and they do have a good football team. They have some young receivers that may not be well known right now as Tyreek Hill, but I think Sky Moore's got a chance, and he'll be a contributor. But they know how to get the ball out. They know how to distribute it to their weapons. And when you got a tight end like Kelsey, that's a huge advantage as well.
Mm.
Well, if the Chargers look to stop Patrick Mahomes, it will be a job for Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, presented by Jiffy Lube. Khalil Mack, 3 sacks in that first game against the Raiders. Joey Bosa added on 1 as well. Scott, we'll start with you here. How do these guys get the job done against Patrick Mahomes?
Amanda, I think they have to do it the old-fashioned way, which is with a 4-man rush, and the fact that Bosa and Khalil Mack have to apply pressure. The other guy to keep an eye on this week, I think, is going to be Kyle Van Noy. He's a rotational player, but he can add a lot and help Mack and help Bosa get rest when they need it, because sometimes less is more. So they need to get, again, pressure the old-fashioned way. You look at Mahomes last week, he got pressured 53.8 of his drop-back passes last week and threw for 4 touchdowns. He was 15 of 21 for 137 yards. When he was blitzed and dropped back last year, he knows how to handle that. So the Chargers need to generate it the old-fashioned way with 4.
Wow, old-fashioned. Well, let me throw some stats out at you, Scotty, as well. And they're not old-fashioned. Last year, in the last 4 games of the season, Patrick Mahomes was only blitzed 10% or less during those games. And when you look at his career, he has thrown most, if not all, of his interceptions when teams blitz him. And what did Arizona do last week? They blitzed him 54% of the time. And when they blitzed him 54% of the time, he threw 4 touchdowns. So I agree, they're going to have to go the old-fashioned way, because when you blitz Patrick Mahomes, you're going to pay. When you don't blitz him, is where he seems to struggle.
So the Chiefs are favored by 4 at home. Either way, this is going to be an exciting game. Rick, overall, what is the X factor in Thursday night?
The X factor. I think there's a couple X factors here, but for the Chiefs, I'm going to say McCole Hardman, because last week he was only targeted 6 times. He had 3 catches for 16 yards. They did distribute the ball, but they have to get him involved in the offense. He just has too much speed. He has too much explosive playmaking ability. I watched the tape on him. They tried to get the ball to him 3 times last week down the field, and he was overshot twice. So I think the X factor will be Hardman if they can get him going, and even doing some similar things they did with Tyreek Hill last year, because I think his speed is almost up to what Tyreek Hill's speed was.
Rick, I love it. Those are great points. I'm going to talk about the X factor, what I think needs to be for the Chargers. And to me, it lies in some of what we were just talking about and getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. But it's going to come down to Brandon Staley and defensive coordinator Ronaldo Hill. To me, what they need to do is not only get pressure, but control the tight end. If you look back over the Chargers the last several years, they've given up the most receiving yardage to tight ends in the NFL since 2021. They've given up almost 1,300 yards over the past 2 seasons. And if you look back, the Chargers have also allowed 13 touchdown receptions to tight ends during this 2 year since 2021, which is second in the NFL, owned to Philadelphia. So to me, it's about Brandon Staley and Ronaldo Hill finding a way to get the pressure and control the tight end.
Brandon Staley still. Oh, go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, just one other thing on the Chargers I think that's going to be an X factor too, Scotty, is that with Keenan Allen out, Mike Williams has to step up. He only had 4 targets and 2 catches and 2 drops last week. So they don't have a lot of household names at the receiver position right now. But Mike Williams is one that has produced for him, and he's going to have to step up, especially if Keenan Allen sounds like he's going to be out with a hamstring.
Rick Spielman, Scott Pioli, our former GMs, we appreciate your insight into this game, also potential negotiations when it comes to Justin Herbert and the Chargers. An expensive contract will be there. And as I was going to mention, Brandon Staley still the favorite to win Coach of the Year. All right, Chargers at Chiefs. Chiefs now, the line is moving a little bit. They were favored by 4, 3.5 there. The total 52 and a hook Thursday night. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.